Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're going to master one of the most powerful and, let's be honest, kind of intimidating tools in financial analysis, the common size financial statement. If you've ever felt completely overwhelmed staring at a massive wall of numbers, trying to figure out what they actually mean for a business's health, well, you're in the right place. We're going to break down common size financial statements into a really simple, exam-ready format. We're moving way beyond just the math to uncover the actual business stories hiding inside those numbers. Okay, let's dive right into this.
Here's our roadmap for today. We'll start with what common size statements are, then do a breakdown of the income statement, move on to the balance sheet breakdown, interpret some real business scenarios, and finally, look at avoiding common exam traps.
Section 1. What are common size statements? The ultimate equalizer. So think about this. How do you accurately compare a tiny local mom-and-pop shop to a massive global corporate chain? Or how do you measure a company's performance against industry averages when the dollar amounts are just wildly different? If you only look at absolute dollars, the big company always looks totally different, and that makes true analysis almost impossible. But we solve this whole thing by using a single magical number, 100%. By converting raw data into a relative scale of percentages, we literally remove the size of the company from the equation. In common size analysis, absolutely every single calculation revolves around this 100% baseline.
Here's a quick trick for your exam. Comparing absolute dollars, great for external reporting, but if you want to compare apples to apples across companies of completely different sizes, you absolutely must convert those dollars into percentages. External reports just give you the raw size, right? But the common size format gives you the structure. It tells you the true composition of the business.
The whole shebang really relies on this idea of a base amount. It's what allows analysts to instantly evaluate trends in cost structure and financing mix. Basically, whatever statement you're looking at, you just pick one key line item, assign it a value of 100%, and then divide literally every other number on that statement by that base amount. It's really that straightforward.
Section 2. The income statement breakdown. Anchoring on sales.
Okay, don't sweat it if this sounds complex. It just boils down to two simple rules to build your vertical analysis. Step 1, you set net sales equal to 100%. Boom, that's your base amount. Step 2, divide every single other line item, like your cost of goods sold, your operating expenses, your taxes, by that net sales number. Let's look at an example using a hypothetical company, Amy's Market. By looking at these percentages, we can instantly see that out of every single dollar in sales, 71 cents goes straight to the cost of goods sold. That leaves a gross profit margin of 29%. We can also see that 25.6% of sales goes to operating expenses. This is so much more insightful than just knowing they spent millions of dollars, right? It tells us the exact efficiency of their operations.
And when you tie these percentages to visuals, it beautifully tracks a company's upward trajectory and profitability. Even if absolute sales are bouncing all over the place, seeing a gross profit trend line moving upward over time means the business is retaining a larger and larger portion of its revenue is pure profit.
Now, what's really fascinating here is how layering multiple profitability metrics reveals the holistic story of a company's cost structure, from gross profit all the way down to net income. Think about it. If gross profit stays stable but operating income starts shrinking, well, you know instantly that overhead expenses are the culprit. The common size percentages let you pinpoint exactly where the money is leaking.
Section 3. The balance sheet breakdown. Unpacking assets and financing.
Let's move over to the balance sheet, where we're going to use a different base. The mechanics are identical to the income statement, but for the balance sheet, total assets serves as our great equalizer. By making total assets 100%, you're expressing every single asset, liability, and equity item as a specific slice of that total pie.
Visualizing these proportions perfectly clarifies relative asset magnitude at a glance. You can literally picture how smaller streams, cash and inventory, flow together to make up current assets, which then combine with property, plant, and equipment to form the entire total asset base.
Tracking these breakdowns year over year is an absolute game changer. It highlights major financial shifts, showing exactly how the asset composition evolves. For instance, you might notice over a 3-year period how a growing chunk of the asset base is getting tied up in non-current assets, like equipment, compared to more liquid current assets.
On the flip side of the equation, we evaluate the financing mix by seeing exactly what percentage of our total asset base is funded by debt versus equity. Remember the golden rule of accounting: assets must equal liabilities plus equity.
So if your assets are 100%, then your liabilities percentage plus your equity percentage must also perfectly equal 100%. That right there is how you measure financial leverage.
Section 4. Interpreting business scenarios. Moving from math to meaning.
All right, calculating the percentages is only half the battle. Now we need to interpret what these numbers mean for real business performance. Let's put this into practice with a classic exam-style scenario. If you see COGS jumping from 71% to 77% over a few years, what is the business story there? Take a second to really think about what would cause the cost to produce goods to eat up a larger slice of your sales revenue.
Rather than just being numbers on a page, a rising COGS percentage points directly to real-world headaches. We're talking supply chain cost spikes or severe pricing pressure. It means the company is paying more for materials or labor, but, and here's the kicker, they aren't able to raise their prices enough to compensate for it. As a direct result, their gross profit margin shrinks.
Here's another scenario you're definitely going to face. What if a company's capital structure shows liabilities expanding as a percentage of total assets while equity shrinks? Think about that balance scale we just talked about. The financing mix is shifting heavily towards debt.
An increasing reliance on borrowed funds relative to equity signals much higher financial leverage and, potentially greater solvency risk. The crucial takeaway here is that while debt can absolutely fuel growth, an ever-increasing percentage of liabilities means the company has to cover more fixed interest costs. That makes them super vulnerable during economic downturns.
Section 5. Avoiding common exam traps. Passing with confidence.
To wrap things up, as your tutor, I want to make sure you don't fall into the traps that constantly trip students up on test day. Let's cover the most critical mistakes candidates make so you can walk into your exam feeling fully prepared. Examiners absolutely love to test the boundaries of your understanding regarding relative versus absolute numbers.
Actually, scratch that. It's more like a golden rule. Never ever confuse a percentage change with a dollar change. A rising percentage does not always mean absolute dollars went up, especially if the base amount, like your total sales, actually shrank. Think about it. If your sales completely plummet, your rent expense as a percentage of sales will absolutely skyrocket, even if your actual rent check stayed exactly the same. Never assume a rising common size percentage means the company spent more actual cash without checking the base amount first.
We've covered the what, the how, and the why. So, the next time you sit down with a terrifying, complex financial statement, ask yourself, what hidden business story will these simple percentages reveal? What secret red flags or hidden gold mines are waiting in there? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll see you next time.